Today we will be editing a wildlife photo. We will turn a doll into a Moody portrait. So if you want to follow along, check the link in the description. The photo is there. You can download that one and just follow along with me and do the same steps. This is a doll and this is what we will do with it. So you can see it's some sort of Indian wild dog or Asian wild dog. And we will take this photo and turn it into really cool kind of Moody portrait. So actually you can do this on your own photo just to remember these steps and apply them to your own photos to get these results. So let's get right into it. Alright, first of all, into Photoshop, I'm gonna import this photo here. As I said before, you can download this photo in the description. It's a stock photo. Now, first of all, let's look at this photo and let's examine this a bit. Now you can see we get some shadows on this side of this doll. So what I want to do is I want to make sure my lighting will come from this side and not there, because if you're gonna change the lighting on a photo, it's gonna be more difficult to make it look real. So try to use the lighting that's in the original photo so you don't have to change it too much, because it doesn't really matter where your lighting is come from. You want to make sure it looks real and good. So what I would do here is I would make sure my lighting is coming from somewhere at the top there. Right, so first of all, we need to use brushes for this. I'm going to create lighting coming from here on this doll. So to create lighting, I'm going to make the picture first darker, and then I'm going to apply a brush to brush it away. Right, so let me explain this. I have my lighting brushes here. If you want to get these brushes, you can get them on my website, or you can get them for free. If you watch my other video, there is a discount in that video to get these lighting brushes. But I will also show a method to create this lighting without these brushes. So if you don't want to get these brushes, that's fine. I will also show a method to create the lighting without them. But my best method is to use my lighting brushes for this. Right, so let's get right into it. First of all, let's remove some colors from this. So I'm going to go down here and add hue and saturation. Because we are changing this photo to a dark scene, you want to make sure you have less colors in your photo, because at night we don't see that much colors. So you want to make sure you drop the colors. So first of all, what I would do for this is I would just simply take the saturation and drop this a bit down like that. And now you can see we already have less color. Now the next thing I would like to do is I want to make sure the background here is pretty much black. So instead of brushing it black or removing the background from this photo, I would just kind of brush it away with the burn tool. So let's create a new layer and then go to edit, fill. And here you want to select 50% gray and change the blend mode to overlay, and let's start with brushing the background darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the burn tool here. I think you can also press B on your keyboard for the burn. Oh no, B is brush. Just select it here. I can't remember the shortcut. And then take the highlights here and increase the exposure. Let's try this out. And you can see here, I can make this a bit darker. So this way it's better to make a background darker, because you're gonna get more natural colors, lighting, than taking the background and removing it, because this way you will still see a little bit of the background but not that much, and that way it's gonna look more real. Right, so let's do that. And now I'm gonna take the midtones here and drop the exposure and do this a bit more there, just like that. So you can see I'm only brushing the background, not on the doll yet. That's the next step. The first step is to make the background a bit darker like this. And then let's go to shadows and do this again. And we have these 3 steps, and that's actually the only 3 steps you need to do to get the background darker. And you can already see it's pretty much black, really dark, kind of greenish now. And this is enough. See, before and after we got it darker. Now the next step is to actually create the lighting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a curves here, and then I'm gonna take the highlights here and just dropping it down a lot, like probably between the first and second line here, somewhere there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take another curse, and this one I'm gonna move to the left. So you can see we can bring the highlights back, and this will be the highlights of my lighting. But I want to make sure to control this because now it looks like we didn't do anything. So I'm clicking on the mask here and press Ctrl or Command I to invert the colors. You can see it got black. And now I'm going to use my brush. So I have my lighting brushes here. As I said before, you can get these brushes from my website, or you can watch my other video. The link is in the description, so you can get the discount code to get them for free. So let's go here, and here we have Spotlight. So I have two Spotlight brushes, and this is what I want to use. I want to use Spotlight 1 because I want to create lighting from the left side, and then I'm going to increase this. Let's make sure it's like that. And let's see, settings here are fine. Want to make sure we select white here as a foreground color. See, white. And now I'm going to define where my lighting will start, probably somewhere there. And then if I click a couple of times, you can see we create this really cool lighting from the top. And that's why I want to use my own brushes. Now, if you don't want to have these brushes, or you're too lazy to watch the other video, let me show you another method without them. You can also do the same here like we did before. If you have my brushes, don't do this. I'm just going to show you a quick method to do pretty much the same. So if you don't have my brushes, you can also just take a general brush, just a normal brush, and you can, let's make this brush smaller, you can just brush it like that. But as I said, this method is better because we create some really cool kind of lighting. So you either do it this way or you do it that way. I would say do it my way with my lighting brush to get the best results. All right, so I'm gonna delete this. This was just to show you how to do it without my brush. Now, the next step is to actually bring up some parts lighter again. So let's take the normal soft round brush now, and let's make the size a bit smaller. And the first thing I would do here is to make sure the eye is also light. So you can see here it got a bit dark, so I'm gonna brush the eye lighter again because I don't want to lose the eyes, right? So just like that. All right, so we got some lighting, we got the background darker, and now what we could do is to brush a bit more on the doll. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new layer and then go to Edit, select Fill, 50% gray, and change the blend mode to overlay again. And now we can use a burn tool and a dodge tool. So let's first go to the burn tool. Where is it? Burn tool. And then let's make the brush a bit bigger. Let's say, let's pick highlights here and let's take an exposure somewhere, maybe 20 to 30. And I'm gonna brush this side slightly darker because we have this really cool spotlight now, but I have a feeling this side needs to be a bit darker because this is really light now. So I'm gonna brush this like that way. You probably won't even see anything here yet, but when you enable and disable this, you will see what we are doing, right? So that's the way to do it. And then switch to midtones and drop the exposure a bit, just like that. And just do it again on these parts. Maybe also here. Let's see before, after, and you can see already it's getting really dark on that side. And then go to shadows and do it one more time with a really low exposure, just like that. And this time I'm gonna make the brush bigger. All right, so that's enough for this one. So you can see this was before and now it is like that. So let's create a new layer again and then go to Edit, select Fill, select 50% gray again, change the blend mode to overlay, and then use the dodge tool to slightly brush some areas lighter. Now, the areas that you want to brush lighter are probably here on his nose. Maybe some light is reflecting there. Maybe a bit there. Some of the fur here. You can see here I have highlights selected with the exposure of 10, so it's pretty low. But I want to make sure I brush something. Not too much. Just like that. And let's zoom out here. And now you can see before we had like just this image, and then we brush these parts and we get this really cool effect. All right, I feel like the color is too colorful still, so I'm gonna go back to the hue and saturation and probably drop this a little bit more, like that. Let's see, this was the background. And if the background is too black, you can also just drop the opacity here of the first thing that we did, like that. And sometimes that works better. All right, we already have this really cool lighting. We have brushed this. And what I want to do now is I want to create something around it because I feel like it's a bit empty now. Before I go to the next step, I want to make sure I have everything in my shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top layer here, and then when I drag this in here, I can put some leaves in front of it to create some depth. Now let's make sure it's kind of in the foreground here, maybe like that. You can see the quality of these leaves is really bad, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna blur them out and you won't see anything of that anymore. So let's duplicate this layer. Oh, first let's make sure to blur it out. So let's go to filter, blur, and select Gaussian blur. And I have a range of 37. This looks fine. And the only thing we need to make sure is that it blends well with this image. So you can see it's really kind of green, but we need to make sure it's a bit darker green with less colors, right? So take the hue and saturation, make sure to press this, and then drop the opacity, not opacity, the saturation here, like that. And you can see it's almost black and white now. So I think this looks cool. And I would also add a curve to this. Just make sure to press this so we only affect the leaf here. And then add some contrast to this by taking the midtones and dropping them a bit down. Maybe increase the highlight slightly because we have some spotlight here. Maybe that's too much. Like that. Oh. And you can also take the darker tones and move them to the right to get more of this black in it. Just like that. And let's go maybe even less color. And you can also try to move this one around to blend the color better with this image. I think this looks fine. Now I'm gonna hold down Shift and select all these layers and press Ctrl or Command G to group them. Now I can move this around easily. And then if I press Ctrl J, I can duplicate this, or Command J if you're Mac, and I'll put maybe somewhere there. And let's duplicate it one more time. And let's see, maybe we can flip it. Go to Transform, flip horizontal, and then let's see, maybe some leaves there at the top. Let's do one more, and let's make this one smaller. If you press Ctrl T, you can resize it. Let's put some in the background there. So we have some, let's do Transform, flip horizontal. So we have some leaves in the background and also in the foreground. This gives it a feeling like he's really in some kind of bushes, right? So I think this is fine. Now, this is just the basic idea to get this. The important next step is to kind of make sure every color looks right and the lighting is cool. So once you have this whole design set up, your photo edit or whatever you want to call it, create a new layer on top of all your layers and press Ctrl Alt Shift E or Command Alt Shift E on Mac. Then go to right mouse on your layer and convert this to a smart object. Because if you make smart objects, you can always later change the settings that you do in Camera Raw, because we are now going to go in Camera Raw. So I'm going to go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Let's put this here. And here we can do some final adjustments. So what I usually do is I have two screens. One screen is for print and one screen that's just my MacBook. It's for digital. So what I do is I usually go from one screen to another screen to see how this looks. So usually when I create something, I make it for online and not so much for print. So what I do is when I make stuff for online, I would go to my MacBook Pro screen and there I will do the settings. And if I make stuff for print, I will use my bigger screen, which I'm looking at now, to do the settings here. So you really need to be sure to define which screen you are going to use if you are using multiple screens like me, right? So let's do the settings here. I'm going to use my print screen. So first of all, let's increase the exposure here a bit to make this lighter. Then let's increase the contrast here. So you can see if I drop this, it's going to get a bit grayish. If I increase this, get nice dark black. And the highlights I would drop a bit because I feel like they are a bit overexposed. So want to make sure it still looks real, so I'm gonna drop these highlights slightly. And let's see this one. Let's move the shadow to the left to get more blacks. And these whites also slightly to the left to make this look more real. Let's see the blacks here. You can increase this one to get more kind of grayish black, but I'm gonna leave it like this. The color balance I will do after this. And let's see, vibrance. No, let's not touch that one. Now we can drop the exposure here to make this image a bit softer, like that. Now let's move on. You can also add grain to make this look more like a real night photo, but I will keep it at 0 to have this soft kind of feeling. Now let's play with these. Let's see. Let's increase these slightly, and this one gonna drop again, just like that. And now in hue I can play with these colors also, so I want to make sure the color of the fur looks nice. So here what I do is I play with these colors to get nice color for the fur, right? So, and also for the leaves. I think these leaves are a bit too greenish because we are at night. I want to make sure they are slightly more kind of dead, right? So this looks fine. Also saturation, let's leave it at that. I'm gonna drop these greens also here a bit. All right, so let's move on. I think this is all fine. We don't have to change anything here. Let's try it out to see how this looks. So that's the best way, to just move the sliders from left to right and go with your feeling how this looks. So let's move this one. I think I'm gonna leave it like it is. I think this is fine. Don't need to change anything there. And just like that. Now you can see you can barely see anything. So what I would do is I would take this and I would move it to my other screen, because my other screen is like my digital screen, and this one I'm using in front of me is for print. So I'm checking both screens always. All right, so this is done. Now let's make sure the colors look a bit better. So I'm gonna add a color balance here, and I'm gonna give it a bit more red, like that. And let's also give it slightly some more blue, just like that. And now let's also do a color lookup and select tree strip here to get some nice colors, but I will drop this like that. And I think this is fine. Now, one more thing, add a curse on top of everything. And here you can make it slightly lighter if it's too dark. And you can make the dark tones a bit darker there. And then if you switch to red here, you can balance these colors a bit better. Let's do green also, like that. And you can see the input is just like 2 or something. It's really low. It's just the final touch to this. So that's pretty much it. That's how easy it is to create these kind of photos. You can also do it really precisely by brushing the eyes and stuff like that to make it lighter, but I want to keep this real. So that's it. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to learn more, make sure to check out my Photoshop courses, where I go a lot deeper into wildlife photo editing if you want to learn more about these kind of stuff. Or else check my other videos to learn more. So thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.